Hello, this is the reflection for Christmas Day, and the text is the Gospel of John, chapter 1, verses 1-14. The story from John's Gospel of the Incarnation, the enfleshment of the Word, lacks the drama of the stories of Jesus' birth from Matthew's and Luke's Gospels. But as we saw last Christmas, John's Gospel reveals how the light which the Word is not overcome by darkness. Another aspect of the incarnation story from John's Gospel, in which there is drama, is the response to the coming into the world of the incarnate Word, which takes the form of ignorance and rejection. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, and his own people did not accept him. Until Christ's coming again in glory, when every tongue, in the words of the Apostle Paul from his letter to the Philippians, should confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. It is possible to ignore or reject Jesus, his teaching, and his works. Jesus does not compel acceptance or obedience by force. However, the people who are the real problem are those who profess to be Christian, but who by deed or word contradict their purported allegiance to Christ. Now, lest we get a little too comfortable condemning other Christians for what we perceive to be such failings, we should acknowledge that all of us, potentially or actually, fall short of perfectly acknowledging or obeying Jesus. This doesn't mean that we should spend all our time anxiously worrying about how well or poorly we are following Jesus, but it does mean that from time to time we should reflect on the ways in which we claim to obey Jesus. I have said more than once that our faith tradition, the Anglican Church, has traditionally formed its members to be good churchgoers rather than disciples. As such, we sometimes risk confusing support for the institutional church for obedience to Jesus. This is not to say that it is not important to support the church. It is, but the church is not the be-all and end-all of discipleship. Being a disciple of Jesus means undertaking a way of life. And good things happen when we accept and obey Jesus. After acknowledging that some ignored and others rejected the incarnate Word, John's Gospel tells us of those who do welcome Christ. But to all who received him, who believed in his name, he gave power to become children of God, who were born not of blood or of the will of the flesh or of the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and lived among us, and we have seen his glory, the glory as of a Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. Those who receive Christ become God's children. To become a follower of Jesus is to enter into a new, intimate relationship with the God whom Jesus, especially in John's Gospel, calls Father. God goes from being merely our Creator to becoming our Father, our parent, as well. To follow Jesus is also to have a vision of grace and truth. The more our lives are marked by habits of Christian discipleship, the more we will see God's grace and truth at work in the world. While there is more to following Jesus than just going to church, being part of a church, a faith community, is truly part of what it is to follow Jesus. Those who join in worship and friendship with others are, I am led to understand, more likely to volunteer with other service organizations and more likely to have better mental health outcomes. Good things happen when we follow Jesus. This Christmastide, I invite you to reflect on how, in your lives, you have received Christ in the past, and how you continue to accept and obey him in the present. You may find that there is something new you are called to. You will likely also discern in what ways you are already faithfully following Jesus. As you do, I pray that you will also have a vision of God's grace and truth, which are manifested in the incarnate Word, Jesus Christ, through whom all things were made.